Hey everyone, this is Corine La Font, your favorite radio host, your only radio host and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know how we do it here on Between the Lines. We are always starting our show off with gratitude, or some people might say thankfulness. So I want to say how thankful I am to be here above ground today. Every day I am so elated that I can wake up to another day, to new mercies, to see the beauty of the world, to still have my faculties intact. I think they're intact, yeah? And everything is working as it should. So I am extremely grateful. I'm also grateful to be able to do my show and have wonderful, handsome guests like you're seeing on the side of me. Yes, Marvin Williams. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. But before I do, let me tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about adversity and success. And you may wonder if the two things go together. Yes, it does. And you will hear why from this gentleman on my right or left. I always get confused with these things. I don't know where to point. Is it the right one? Yeah. So let me tell you a bit about Marvin. Let me grab his quick short bio here. So Marvin Williams is a first-time author. He's graduated from Warner Pacifice, I hope I said that correctly, University in Portland, Oregon. He's a member of Fathers and Men of Professional Basketball Players, and he currently lives in Charlotte. Is that North Carolina, Marvin?
Yes, it is.
Is that North Carolina? Yes. Wonderful. So I said it right.
Yeah.
I said it right. So welcome officially to Between the Lines. It's great to have you. It's great to have you. So today we're going to be talking about adversity. Say that again.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me. Of course. It's great to have you. So we're doing this live. So people are going to be watching this on Facebook, YouTube, where else? Twitch. Yes. And they're going to be seeing it on LinkedIn and other social media networks. So it's going to be going out there. And of course, Marvin is going to do his own promotions for you guys to see in North Carolina and the rest of the states and the world. He's just going to do his thing. So, Marvin, what I noticed about your bio, and I looked up your book, I'm going to feature your book a little bit later down in the episode about secondary break. That's the title of his book. But you're a former basketball player in the NBA. How did you manage to get into that? Let's start with that first, and then we'll kind of backtrack.
Okay. The Marvin that's the former NBA basketball player is my son. So a lot of people get us confused. I started playing when at an early age, and I did a lot of trials while I was going through college and high school, and then I tried out for the pros. And after I didn't make it to the pros, I started coaching Marvin. And so Marvin, the Marvin that you probably talking of, is my son, who's currently retired.
Oh, that's how it goes. So we need to get that Marvin on my show and kick you out. We need to kick you out and bring. We need to kick you out and bring that Marvin on. That's the one we're interested in. So we're talking about congratulations to him, by the way, because I don't know much about basketball. I mean, as a woman, I'll tell you honestly, I just look at how fine the guys look, really. I just look at that, and I think that's what most women do. They just look at how fine they look. We don't know nothing about the game. There are some who are passionate, but like me, I just watch how fine they look. That's all I'm interested in, okay? I'm being honest.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so you spoke about, or you shared with me about coming from an abusive relationship with I guess your family. I want you to be able to share that, because the thing about Between the Lines, this show, is to really empower persons to be inspired and to know that there is hope
Yep.
to know that they can overcome adversity and that their story is not unique. While you may feel at the time that you're going through hell and you're not getting out, there is hope because other persons have been through it and they're still breathing today. And not only breathing, they're thriving. They're
Right.
actually living life the way they deserve and the way they should be living. So we're going to be talking about healing. We're going to be talking about your past. So let's start from that. Share a bit about that. And I noticed, I'm going to tell you honestly, because this is an honest show, I'm an honest person. I noticed that one of the reviews when I looked up your book on Amazon, because persons are going to check your book and they are going to see the same reviews. One of the first reviews, and I'm sure you would have known, somebody was not very kind to you. It was one of the top reviews, and they really did a bit of hating on you. And my suspicion is that it was a relative of yours because you would have spoken about them in the book and they did not take too kindly to the things that you shared. Exposing family is not something people really like. They're not going to agree with it. So I suspected it's a relative of yours. And I saw you nodding. So it tells me that I am on point.
Yeah.
But besides that, because that is going to happen, that's natural, and I don't want anyone who may feel to write their own story, because there's a story in everyone. I don't want anybody to be put off by that, to feel, oh, their family is going to hate them, they're going to have family that wouldn't talk to them. That just comes with the territory of talking out an issue that you feel has affected you, and you have a right to speak about it. However, being very, how shall I say, careful in managing and balancing how it would impact others by not mentioning their real names, etc., etc. So I want you to go back to that, to your past, and share how you transition from an abusive situation or whatever adversity you were going through, and how you were able to heal and become successful today.
Well, yeah, to address the bad rating on my book, it was one of my cousins who wasn't even born during the time that I was going through the issues, and she wasn't even familiar because she, like I said, she wasn't born what was going on in my life at that time. So I just take that with a grain of salt, and I think everybody got to write their opinion. Yeah, I grew up I had a mother and father who I loved very dearly. They were great people, but I think they had their own personal issues with alcohol. And during that time, I grew up in New York. I lived in New York till I was about 13 years old. And during that time, my mom and dad would fuss and fight all the time and have major issues in the family. So then we moved from New York. You know, at the time in New York, back in the 1970, 71, 72, you know, we had the Black Panthers. You had a lot of unrest with Black people in New York during that time, and we had the Black Panthers who would step in and be like our community advocate. And so I grew up under the Black Panthers and their community service work. They did a lot of great stuff for us. I think sometimes the American government here speaks bad about them, but they really don't understand what great things they done for the Black community. So I grew up in a time where there was racial unrest in the United States, especially in New York, where we had Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and all those guys. And those guys were our Black leaders. And so as I grew up in New York, we got along with everybody basically in New York because we were a big melting pot. But then after when I turned about 13, my mom and dad moved us to North Carolina because my granddad had died, my mother's dad had died. So I moved to North Carolina and lived with my grandma. And during that time, my mom and dad still had their own issues, you know, drinking and separation and things like that. My dad stayed in New York. My mom, she came home, and we stayed down there because her dad died, and she didn't want to take us back to New York. But during that time, when I moved to North Carolina, this was probably '72. There was a whole lot of racial issues going on in the South. So when we moved from a mecca city like New York to North Carolina, as a kid, I had to learn to adjust to the racism about the white people. But thankfully, what I had learned to do was when I was right before I left New York, I had a friend of mine teach me how to play basketball, and so I fell in love with the game of basketball, and so I used basketball as the way of escaping from maybe my family life and things that was going on at home. When we moved to North Carolina, I kept on playing basketball, and dealing with all the issues that was going on. My grandmother, she was doing the best she could with everybody that was living in the house with her. And, going out, we used to crop tobacco. I cropped tobacco as a kid from probably when I was 13 to about 17 or 18. And I don't know if anybody knows what cropping tobacco is like, but it's almost like being on a plantation of slavery. Back then in 1972, all the people that owned tobacco were the white people, and the black kids were basically put out there to work all day from maybe 5:30 in the morning to 8 or 9 o'clock at night cropping tobacco, and then you would put it in the barn and get up and do it every day for the whole summer. And so during those times, during the summer, when I wasn't cropping tobacco, I would go to the local park and play basketball. And then I ended up making friends with some really good people. I live in a town called Wallace, which is about 45 minutes from a big city called Wilmington. And so Wilmington, I ended up making friends with a guy named Kenny Gaddison, who ended up going and playing in the NBA for about 16 years. And then I also became friends with Michael Jordan and Larry Jordan and Clyde Simmons. Clyde Simmons his future ended up being playing in the NFL for I think about 10 years. So those guys were my friends, and those guys got me through those rough times. Whenever I wasn't cropping tobacco and dealing with racial issues, I would go to the park and those guys would drive from Wilmington to my hometown and we would play. And so I grew up under that environment. Things weren't as great as we wanted them to be, and so we was living with my grandmother. So I finally figured out a way. I was cropping tobacco for this black sheriff friend of ours. He had a house that he wanted to rent out. And so I wanted to get my mom out of my grandma's house so she could feel like, she has her own stuff. And so I worked a deal out with him so that I could get that house. I cropped tobacco for him all summer, and he eventually let us live in that house. And we lived in that house for many years. Until I actually pretty close to probably about 5 years before I graduated from high school. I had a high school coach, Bill Clay Jones. He was really, really wonderful. He's seen the struggles and stuff that me, my brother, and my family was going through. So he was always encouraging. He encouraged me to continue playing basketball and kept telling me I could get into college. And so that's what I believed, and that's what I started focusing my energy on, was being really good at basketball and trying to get into college. And then after I graduated, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to college or not, so I kind of hung around home. After we had got my mom that new place, I kind of hung around home, and my dad and my mom still going through their stuff with their alcohol, fighting and stuff like that. And so my dad told me I had to go do something with myself, whether I get a job or go to work, or, go to college. And so I didn't really want to go to college, but I like playing basketball. So one day I was out playing basketball in the park, and a friend of mine told me, "Hey man, you can get paid and go in the military and play basketball." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." So I did some research into it, and I found out that I could do it. So what I did was I moved to New York after I graduated from high school, and I stayed in New York for about a year. And then I found myself getting some trouble in New York, and my dad and mom came and got me. And then me and my dad had some issues, so I just said I'm gonna go join the military. And so I didn't even tell him I joined the military till the day I was supposed to leave. And so I joined the military. I told my dad to take me down to the bus station. And he asked for what, and I explained to him I joined the United States Navy. And he was upset about it, but it was an opportunity again for me to play basketball. So I left to take advantage of that. But I didn't want to stay in my hometown because I just thought there was more to life than just living in that small town. So I ended up joining the military and got on the ship. They found out I could play basketball, and I was really good at basketball. So they formed a Navy ship team. We traveled every time we pulled into a port. We would get local good teams and play against those guys, and did that for about 3 years. And then the Navy decided I was really good, so they took me off the ship and made me like an ambassador for basketball for the United States Navy. So I did that for about a year, and then I got out early. They let me out early because I got basketball offers. So I ended up Arizona State wanted me to play for them, but at that time I had my son, and I didn't. His mom didn't want to move to Arizona, so I ended up moving back to her hometown and staying with her and doing a college and playing ball there. I played 2 years at a community college, had great success. Then I went on to a higher level, which is a Division I school. Played 2 years there, really well there. And then I started trying out for coaching, and I did that for a few years. And after that, I kind of got tired of it, and I started coaching girls basketball with my girlfriend at the time. But during that time while I was trying out for teams, and I would get it was like I would get close, and what I call coaching, you got 80 guys coming in to try for 3 spots. And out of the 80 guys, they pick the best 10, and that's the all-star team. And out of those 10, they'll pick 3 players. And so I made the last team that I tried out for, which was John Lucas' team. He used to be a former NBA basketball player. He had a drug rehab program that he invited me to come try out for. So guys basically were in the NBA, and they got busted for drugs while in the NBA. The NBA was sending to John, and John would get their life back on track. And then basketball. So he set up a basketball team and traveled all over the world. And I was trying out for that team. And I made the cut. Got it down to 10. I made the cut to 3. And then they invited me to go to the next level. But then that night at the hotel, John got a call that the NBA had a player that they wanted to go in his program. And because I wasn't part of the alcohol rehab program, I played my position. So they told me that I couldn't. They cut me basically. And I was probably 26 then. And so I just got tired of doing it, got discouraged. So I quit trying out. I quit playing. Started drinking heavily. Then I wasn't being responsible for taking care of my kids like I supposed to. And so I finally did that for a year. Got out of that mess, out of that funk, and decided my girlfriend said, look, she said, there's other things you can do with basketball. You can coach basketball. So, I told her she applied for a coaching job at this college, high school. So I went there with her and started coaching. I fell in love with coaching, and I coached girls basketball for probably about 5 or 6 years. And I had some girls that went on to Division I schools, some high-level young ladies that went on to do very well in their basketball careers. And so then I went and started coaching my son. And from there, I started coaching him one-on-one. He ended up being one of the top players in high school basketball in the country. And then went on to go to college at the University of North Carolina, where he won a national championship. And after that, he ended up number 2 pick in 2005 in the NBA draft. And so for the last 15 years, I've been basically just guiding his career.
Awesome. I'm hearing so much history. I'm hearing all what was going on at the time, where you live, your house, your family, the opportunity that came to you that you took when you realized what was going on with you, that gave you an out to become the person that you are today. Now, there are a lot of persons who are going through a number of different stuff. To list it will be endless. But right. People are carrying a lot of trauma from their families, from within themselves, things that they're not even aware of, Marvin.
Right.
And I think COVID and the pandemic, because of the isolation, has brought up those latent issues in them that they have to deal with it now. Right. Because of what you went through, could you share 3 tips? 3 tips. I like to use 3 tips based on your own history, based on your own struggles, dysfunctional family. Because I think we all come from a dysfunctional family. It's just masked in different ways. We all come from a dysfunctional family. If anybody thinks that their family is perfect, I'm so sorry for you, they're not. But they are dysfunctional in one way or another. But some are just more dysfunctional than others. So you came from a dysfunctional family, abusive as well. And basketball was your light at the end of the tunnel. What are 3 things you would share with somebody listening right now to help them go through what they are going through, to give them hope? What are 3 tips that you can share?
One of the things I was really seeing with family People, like you said, people have problems with their family. And when you have family issues, and you should also have dreams. Every day you should wake up having dreams. And I think the first one would be, if you're having trouble with your family, try to turn the negative into a positive. Just because your family's having trouble don't mean you're stuck in that life. And I think people need to stop thinking, because this is how my life is right now. This is how it's always going to be. And I always tell people, dream bigger than that. So the first thing I would say is, don't let your environment
Yeah.
dictate who you become. That's the first thing. The second thing, I believe that if you have a dream, don't let nobody discourage you. Because I've been told a whole lot of things over the years, that I was crazy, I was chasing a pipe dream, I would never succeed, and those are the people you want to stay away from. And if you believe in yourself that you can do something, and you think you can do something, then through God, believing in yourself and believing in God, He'll take you to where you need to be. And the third thing I would say is, never forget where you come from. I think that's very important, because you realize how much uh, God has been in your life. Because it took me this long to. I've always known God was in my life, because I've always been a steadfast believer in God. But it took me, when I wrote that book, I had to sit down and think about the blessings that I have. I think too many people sit around and they think about what they don't have, and get stuck in that, and think that's the way life is, and it's not. So I think always believe in yourself and believe in God. God will take you through any tough thing you got.
What made you decide to become a first-time author, to write a book? A lot of persons are fearful of taking that step of putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and actually telling their story. Because I believe, as I said earlier, everybody has a story to share, and your responsibility as someone is to tell that story, because it could impact one life. It may not impact millions or thousands, but one. And that one will touch another one and another one. So, what gave you the impetus to share your story and to disrupt your family who are leaving bad reviews on Amazon?
I I think the first thing, years ago, my son's pastor, and I was living in a little city called Bremerton, Washington. Years ago, he told me that he thought I had a book in me, but I was like the most people. I was like, nah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't really have nothing to tell, and so I kind of put it off. And then one day, I was sitting on my back porch, looking around at my nice house, thinking about my son and thinking about all the things that I have. And then I thought about my mom and dad, and I asked myself, what would they think of me now? So I got to thinking about the struggle from where I came, and a lot of it, my journey, I felt like I was doing it alone, because my mom and dad didn't have no financial, they didn't have the finance to help me do things, to go out and complete my dream like I wanted to. And then I was in the military. I was going away from home for about 6, 7 years at a time. And so I've always felt like I was alone, but I wasn't. And I had to realize that when I was sitting on the porch, that God was always with me. And so I started writing a journal. I wasn't even writing it just to write the book. I was writing it just to get some things off my chest and my heart for myself. But then I also later, I gave it to a friend of mine who runs a publishing company, and she told me, "Hey man, you got a story here. You ought to write this to a book." And so I thought about it, and I said, "Well, my goal is, if I write this book, I'm writing this book so that I can inspire young people or anybody, because I know from once I came, if I can do it, anybody can be successful." I don't. Success can be defined in many different terms. Some people say, "Oh, you're a billionaire, you're successful." Some people say you live off $100,000 a year, and you come from nothing is successful. So my goal was just to inspire, hope that somebody will read the book and be inspired by it, and say, "Man, look at this! Look at this guy! Look what he went through. If he can do it, I know I can do it too." And that was my ultimate goal at the end of writing the book.
Yeah, yeah. You said something significant there that moved me. You were sitting and reflecting, and you wondered, what would your parents think of you? You're at your house, you think of your son. What brings us to that moment, Marvin? What brings us to that moment of reflection? If you, I don't know your age right now, But I can ask you this. If you were to think back, that is not something that would come to you in your 20s or your 30s. You sit down in your porch, you're drinking a cup of tea or something. Why is it that we have that moment? What brings us to that moment where we start to really reflect and think, where are we going? What would my parents think of me? What do I think of myself? What am I leaving this earth with? What brings us to that point?
I think the first thing is maturity. That'll be the key thing, maturity, where you can sit back. Because some people don't like to inner reflect because they may be ashamed of what they've done in the past, or they may be ashamed of what they might do or what they thought. I think the big thing is maturity. And for me, I think it was just being able to grow. I think I had to keep telling myself every day when I wake up, I want to be better every day. I don't want to be. I could be one of those dads that sit back and say, "Yeah, my son's a multi-millionaire. I don't have to do nothing anymore, and this is how I'm gonna live the rest of my life." But I still have my own personal dreams, So and I also wanted, even though my parents aren't here, I know they're watching me, so I always try to do something every day to improve myself. And I think when it comes to reflection, people got to be. They should reflect. You shouldn't wait till I'm 56. You shouldn't wait till you're 56 to do that. You shouldn't wait till you're 56 to do that. I think you should start when you're in your late 20s and 30s. But I think you should also do it every day as a person to grow, and that keeps you moving forward in life.
Yeah, yeah. At 20 and 30, like you said, we should be doing it. I know that I have at moments, I can't tell you the exact moments where I said there must be better than this. It may come to you, but I think when you reach a certain point, like a certain age, I don't know what that point is or age is for people, that you just have a moment, a come to Jesus moment, where
Yeah,
you just, where you just, everything, yeah, like everything just stops. You're in a sort of meditative mode without even realizing it, and it's like, where am I going?
hmm
Am I, what's my purpose? What am I going to do? What? A come to Jesus moment. When you might have been hopping and skipping and flirting and doing all sorts of things before, you're realizing that you got to slow down. You realize all the things that you were running down before really doesn't matter. It really
right.
doesn't matter. Where are we heading? Where are you going forward? Yeah, I like that,
And I,
maturity. But I could tell you honestly, I'm not seeing that level of maturity, Marvin, in a lot of people these days. I don't know why. I don't know why, but something is happening where I'm not seeing that level of maturity. I was brought up to believe that as age brings wisdom, but somehow
right.
it's not bringing the kind of wisdom that I would like to see in people. It's not bringing the kind of wisdom. There's still people in their 50s and 60s are still behaving like they're in their 20s. And I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with. I do believe the first element of that is we are having young kids today who are having kids, and so they don't have a clear sense of who they are because they're too young to understand. Nobody's taught them how to set goals and to be ambitious and to figure out why you're on this earth to do the most while you're here. And they're never taught that. So with them not being taught that, they can't pass it along to their child or their daughter. And so their child or their daughter go through life, just like you said, till they 40, 50, and still think they're in their 20s. And I think the thing we have to do as parents is go back to the times where we had grandmothers and grandfathers instilling value in us and instilling ambition in us to, okay, hey, this is my life, but I know you can do better. I want to see you do better. And teach them the values of setting goals and continue to improve themselves. Because even God wanted you, if you read the Bible, God wanted you to always get better.
Yeah. We have to go back to basics. And I come back again to COVID-19. And it really, to me, it brought people back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
Loving on people, being more compassionate, back to the basic hygiene that you learn at home and in school. just back to basics, slowing down, stop running down the materialistic things. Some people still haven't gotten it yet, Marvin, but hopefully in time, people will learn to just slow down, recognize the roses, smell it, smile at people, have love in your heart.
Exactly.
Just slow down so you will have the time to take in the things that really matter, as opposed to just running past it and you're not even recognizing. You're not seeing your own purpose in the ecosystem. You're not seeing it because you're just running.
Yep.
Oh my word. Oh my word. I want to share now. I want to see if I can share now your book on Amazon so persons can grab a copy. Let me see if I can do that. Are you seeing that on the screen?
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So this is secondary break. Is it a second chance? I don't know. Your second break, but you can have multiple chances.
Yeah.
So secondary break, an NBA dad story. So I see here that persons can get the both versions, both format, Kindle and paperback. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And of course, you can buy it for someone else as a gift. And you can buy it for someone else as a gift. This is my page that's showing up here. So if I wanted to buy it, I can do that. And I guess other persons can do the same. And you see a nice little blurb here about what the book is about. And of course, there are reviews, 23 ratings, which is where I saw the review by the relative. But generally, if persons go down, you would see people are actually saying positive things. Everything that I've read here so far has been positive. All the reviews except for this one review, and I suspected that it came from a relative. From the time I read it, I just knew. So I just wanted to showcase your book there, and
Thank
persons not a problem at all. Persons are going to, in family, they don't want to bring things out. And I'm saying to myself, if you keep shoving things under the carpet, under the rug, how do you expect to heal? How do you expect your family to bond? How do you expect to release those demons, let's call it that, from passing on from generation to generation? If you keep it under the rug and feed it there, it is going to continue. Generational curses, demons, spirits, whatever it is, it just keeps going on. You have to put a stop to it. And the only way is to talk it out, get it out. But you did this for you, Marvin. You did this for you. But in doing it for you, you were able to touch the lives of many others. I thank you for that. I thank you for that. Any final words before we go?
Now, I want to thank you so very much for the time and effort you put in to having me on the show. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.